I will work on the audio-visual capabilities.
I'm going to borrow your terminology and call bullshit on your entire career in Congress.
I'm reclaiming my time,
It's been a disgrace to the American
Director, I'm
people.
reclaiming my time.
You can reclaim your time all you want.
Mr. Chairman, you're going to allow a witness to speak this way? Mr. Chairman, would you
accuse yourself?
The gentleman has no time.
Mr. Chairman, would you admonish the witness not to insult members?
The gentleman has no time.
Mr. Chairman, just
committee will remember.
Quick point of order. Could the gentleman be extended an additional 20 seconds to complete his thoughts, since the witness decided to interrupt him continuously?
And the witness will be able to respond if he wants. We'll make sure he has time to do that.
My question is, will you, Director, recuse yourself, yes or no, from investigating or making decisions about the 60 individuals, including myself, that you identified as government gangsters? Yes or no?
Time of the gentleman has expired. The witness may respond if he would like.
And the answer was no, as I heard.
Correct. Okay. The gentleman from Wisconsin, the gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized for 5 minutes.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I hope you all had a phenomenal day today. I saw that clip, and I was like, I love that. I love that. Will you recuse yourself from investigating those who you labeled government gangsters? No. Why should he? Why should he? Just because it's his opinion that you're a gangster, why would he have to recuse himself? That doesn't mean he's vested in anything here. I don't think he should recuse himself. The reason we want him there is because he calls these folks what they are, which is gangsters. That's why we want him to be the one leading the charge. You think I want someone who's basically some Pollyanna who's going to sit there apologizing and saying, well, it's really not so bad? No, I want my cops. I want my people who are going after folks to actually be like, no, these guys are bad. I'm going after them because they're bad. That's why we're going after them. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. So no, I don't want him recusing himself. I love that he was brazen enough to actually say to his face, I'm coming after you. I am coming after you. That's Kash Patel. All right, maybe one of his eyes is going a different direction, but we can joke about that. We can joke about that. We all love Kash, usually. As long as he's not talking about Epstein, it's hard not to love him. When he's talking about Epstein, it's hard to stomach. But when he's not talking about Epstein, he's certainly a lot better than Bondi, that's for sure. A lot better than Bondi. And I'm going to be calling Bondi out because tonight we're going to be calling her out. I have a goal up for tonight. This is going to be a short show tonight, relatively short. I have a family thing that I need to sort of bust out of here at 8 p.m. tonight. It's now 6:42. So normally my show goes for like 2 hours. I need to bust out of here by 8 p.m. Which makes me sad because I like the 2 hours. I like it feels like the right amount of time. So I put up here a goal which would basically bring me back for a second show. That if we hit our 15, but we only have like an hour to do it. So I don't know if we're going to do it or not. But if you guys want me to come back for a second show, I'll do a call-in show. Maybe I'll try to cover another story. We'll see if there's something else I can cover. If we hit that goal, I'll come back here probably around 10:30 or so. I'll set up a show to go at 10:30, and we'll have a second show tonight. That's right, 2 for the price of 1. Who can complain about that, right? So if we hit our goal, then that's what's going to happen. So that's on you. If we do it, this is a goal. We sometimes hit, we sometimes don't hit. Trying to cram it into the 1 hour is tough. I'll give you the full hour and 20 minutes. I mean, if we had it beforehand, I'll just be like, all right, no. Even if the timer runs out. But I put it at 1 hour to sort of put urgency because this is going to be a relatively short show compared to my regular fare. $10 if you'll give us 5 seconds to get through the ad to see the first clip of the day. Give us 5 seconds to get through the ad and see the first clip of the day. I don't control that stuff. You're talking about like those ads that sometimes are skippable and not skippable. That's something like YouTube just sort of throws out. I don't say ad like I don't do that. So if that's what you're trying to say, like skippable ads, I don't know. I don't know how that operates. So I try. I'll see if I can figure something out. I assume that's what you mean. I assume that's what you mean. Also, I count rants towards our goal. So if you rant me, I'll count that. I will count that as well. But first things first. Let's talk about what's going on in the world. Specifically, we're going to start over in the state of Minnesota, where Tim Walz is learning FAFO, FAFO, and Minnesota. So much scrutiny on the once great state of Minnesota. No longer great. We can't count them. They're like then I question whether we can really count them. No offense to you Minnesotans, you're fully American. Don't get me wrong, you're fully American. But this is kind of like you're becoming like the stain that New York and California have long held the two spots. You and Illinois and these states. Frankly, my own state, New Jersey, isn't much better. It's not too much better over here. It really isn't. But we talked yesterday about all the fraud that's going on in Minnesota. You had the whole thing happen with Somalians and this whole thing with the shooting and the National Guard and all this craziness that's happening in Minnesota. Tim Walz basically allowing fraud to run rampant. I saw one report which said that the fraud that we now think is somewhere totaling around 1.7 billion may end up is more likely to come in around $6 to $8 billion of fraud in the state of Minnesota. These are preposterous numbers. I don't know that that's true. I don't know, but that's what I've seen reports on that. We'll see. I have a feeling it's gonna be well over two. By the time we're all said and done, it's gonna be well over $2 billion. That's a crazy amount of money. A crazy amount of money. It's so hard for us to conceptualize. I've done this before, and I'm going to tell you probably many times again, the best way to understand just what a significant amount of money, $1 billion is. To understand that is the only way I can conceptualize it. And I assume most people like me, our minds are not really built to deal with numbers that are quite so significant, that far higher than you ever counted in your life. Right? No one counts to 1 million. So once you get to those numbers that are so astronomical, it's so hard for us to conceptualize that. And the best way to really conceptualize just what a significant number, $1 billion is to look at it in units of time. Specifically, if you look at that, if you do the math, if you calculate what 1 million seconds is, how much time would pass if you counted 1, 2, 3, 1 second at a time? Well, 1 million seconds from now would be 11 days from now. A lot of people, when you first say 1 million seconds, they're like, oh, that's gonna be a couple of years. No, it's 11 days. That's it. 11 days. In 11 days, we pass a million seconds. 1 billion seconds is 30 years. 30 years worth of seconds. So counting 1 million 1,000 times, 30 years. I think that helps you better appreciate the magnitude of fraud that's happening in the state of Minnesota. When we say there's $1.7 billion worth of fraud, wow, you have to be trying so hard to enable fraud. Sadly, it seems as if that's the state of affairs in the state of Minnesota. And Donald Trump is not too excited about it. And right now, a lot of that fraud seems to be centered around Minnesota, around the Somalian community in Minnesota. Not to say that they're the only ones engaging in fraud. I'm sure they have their run-of-the-mill fraudsters there. But the Somalian community there seems to be very highly embroiled in fraud. And this has motivated Trump to send ICE on in there. Donald Trump has unleashed ICE raids to target Somalia illegal immigrants in Minnesota following a deadly shooting of 2 National Guard troops in D.C. Strike teams made up of DHS agents and other federal officers will be deployed in the Minneapolis-St. Paul Twin Cities region, sources confirmed on Tuesday. Around 100 officers across the U.S. have been deployed in the new crackdown, which comes after the president clashed with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Walz's administration, which is a joke, is under scrutiny after massive fraud was perpetrated against state welfare agencies by Somalian migrants. And he defends it. He's like, that's lazy. That's to say that is just as rude. It's racist. It's lazy. Walz administration on the screen after massive fraud was perpetrated against state welfare agencies by Somali migrants. Some of the funds have ended up in the hands of jihadists in North Africa, according to reports. Trump branded the governor a retard, which is really kind of offensive to retards, and warned that Somali refugees are completely taking over Minnesota. The president is furious after Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom was shot dead on Wednesday in the nation's capital. Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf was wounded in the attack and is still fighting for his life in hospital. Ramanullah Lakanwal, 29-year-old Afghan who entered the U.S. in 2021 and had worked with American troops, including the CIA, ambushed the soldiers before being wounded by a third guardsman. He faces charges, including assault with intent to kill. I don't know if I have it here. I saw that he actually pled not guilty today from his hospital bed. He pled not guilty, which is not really that surprising, but it's nice to see that that case is moving along expeditiously. We don't need him in front of us here in order to take his plea and start getting this case moved along, because we want this guy prosecuted and sentenced as quickly as possible. He faces charges including assault with intent to kill. Law enforcement has not released a motive for the suspected shooter, who is Muslim. Now, less than a week after the attack by Afghan who lived in Washington state, Trump is launching an intensive immigration enforcement operation targeting Somali illegals. Documents obtained by the New York Times show Homeland Security spokeswoman Tricia McLaughlin refused to comment on this because DHS does not discuss future potential operations. Quote, what makes someone a target of ICE is not their race or ethnicity, but the fact that they are in the country illegally, she added to the Times. This is an important thing. I just want to pause and I want to share with you what Trump said, and we can all sit there and applaud as they did in this little clip here where they applaud from him. But this is something you need to sort of walk very, very carefully, very gingerly around. Low though you may hate to do it, the reality is this in a certain way could potentially be damaging from a legal perspective. This is Trump addressing the topic.
But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much.
Listen to the applause. So it's nice to see his cabinet applauding him. It's on that. It's very nice to see his cabinet applauding him on that. And you and I might agree with everything he said there. No, I'm going to assume, I'll tell you this much. I agree with what he's saying there. I agree with everything he said there. However, what I would caution is you sort of need to be careful before it walks too close, perhaps. It risks walking too close is a better way to phrase it, towards this being targeted in a way that could be deemed racist and violative of various due process issues. You could create all sorts of due process issues if it comes out that you're, if it comes across that you're targeting the Somalian community. It's one thing for you or me to have an individual opinion about, a community or particular subset. That's not really doing anything. That's not having any impact. But when Trump makes a statement like that on an open camera from his cabinet, being applauded by his cabinet for doing that, yeah, it's a cool moment, and he's expressing what you and I might be thinking and feeling. But you don't want him to be creating some sort of unnecessary added legal challenge, right? I mean, you don't want that. Now, I'm not saying he has. I'm simply saying he's dancing up to a line, which that imagine you're a defense counsel for some Somalian who's about to be deported, and you basically want to charge, hey, that this is an act that is, this is a violation of the 14th Amendment. that he's being targeted based on his race. And you play that clip for the judge. Is it not possible a judge would be like, find that they agree with that? That you're targeting this guy because he's Somalian, because you don't like Somalians? So in that sense, I don't know that it's the best thing in the world for him to be that transparent, even if that's what he's thinking and feeling. As far as just being effective, I want him to be effective. And I don't uniquely care about Somalians being removed. I care about illegal aliens. I want all of them removed. I understand they got his dander up because of the shooting in the National Guard. I understand they got his dander up, and that the crosshairs is on Somalia right now, and Somalians, in particular Minnesota, because of the fraud that so many of them have been perpetrating in the state of Minnesota. So I get all of that. What I'm simply saying is I wanted to be able to do it effectively with as little legal hurdles as possible. So in that sense, I'm not crazy about him saying that. I have concerns. Because look, and here's one more thing before I move on. I go back to the story. Because of what we've seen happen in the news, particularly over the past year, but really this is going on for years, where we see judges seem slanted, biased, that they're all, some of them are crazy Democrats and others seem to be more conservative. Because our judiciary has been that tainted, that doesn't mean that the run-of-the-mill judge is looking to approach with fairness. Even if it's only 20% of them are run-of-the-mill judges, which I don't think it's as low as 20%. I think it's probably a larger number. I think we hear the spotlight is on the people who are crazy Democrats, who are crazy leftist judges. That's the stories you hear about, but you don't hear about the thousands of their peers who actually have a regard for the law and for fairness. So as much as you'll hear me malign Judge X, Y, or Z, I think that those are the ones who we're always going to focus on, right? The headlines is always, man bites dog, not dog bites man. So when the dog bites man, the run-of-the-mill normal situation happens, you don't hear about it. We hear about the Judge Boasbergs of the world because he's so truly atrocious as a judge and so terribly slanted as a judge. That's why we hear about the Judge Chutkins of the world. Because when they see stuff like that, they make news, not simply the magnitude of the cases that they're covering. You make much less news. Well, you don't know the names of the judges who overturned the district court judge, or you're far less likely to know them. So when you have a crazy district court judge who goes off kilter and decides, I'm going to put a nationwide injunction on Trump that he can't shut down USAID, he can't freeze funds. Those names we know, those names we see. When they get overturned by a panel of appellate court judges who say, you got no authority here, you have no jurisdiction here, those names become forgotten because they're just doing their job. When folks are doing their job, they don't get as much headline. So that's why what I'm saying is most judges, I think, are more like the latter and less like the former. We just know the names, or we see the names and they pop up in the news when they start acting like crazy leftists. So now let's assume that in a typical case, you're going to get the run-of-the-mill type of judge that I've been describing here. Well, then they're going to try and approach this fairly. And if all of a sudden defense counsel comes in with a clip of Donald Trump saying stuff like this, that might give someone who's judging it fairly pause. Are we looking at a 14th Amendment violation here? That there's some sort of particular racism against Somalians. So that hurts the prosecution's case when they're trying to get this guy deported, because now you have to basically convince a judge that no, this isn't racist. That this was not motivated by racism. That's what I'm saying is you don't have that hurdle if Trump isn't so transparent in his frustration with these people here. Now, I say in principle, I totally agree with him. I cannot stand the notion that people come from another country to our country here just to bitch and rip us off. It bothers me that they come here to whine and complain and basically say that everything here is terrible. And I'm just like, go home. Who the hell wants you? It's like you're the turd in the punch bowl. You come to a party just to tell everyone how much the party sucks. No one wants you. Go away. Get the hell out of here. Go back to your house. Go back to your home. Like, we just don't want you here. We want people who are going to have fidelity to this country, people who have a genuine love of America, not people who come here that their principal motivation is, I'm a daughter of Somalia, like Ilhan Omar is, and complaining about this country all the time, about how it's racist, it's uniquely racist and things of that nature. I'm totally on board with everything that Trump said there. I'm simply looking at how do we get this done effectively, and I have concerns that if the President of the United States makes statements like that on open camera so brazenly, that it might take your run-of-the-mill judge who's trying to be fair and give them pause. That's really what my whole point is. So, Homeland Security spokesperson Trish McLaughlin refused to comment on because DHS does not discuss future potential operations. Quote, what makes someone a target of ICE is not their race or ethnicity, but the fact that they're in the country illegally, she added to the Times. Confidence in Minnesota's social safety net has been shaken by fraudsters who authorities say have stolen more than $1 billion in public funds from programs meant to feed children, assist the homeless, and provide autism therapy. Over the past 5 years, people mostly within Somali communities have gotten rich by running companies that bill the state for millions of dollars in social services that were never actually rendered. Federal prosecutors say of the 86 people that have been charged, 59 have been convicted so far in what they describe as 3 separate fraud schemes. One central case involving the nonprofit Feeding Our Future, which claimed to serve tens of thousands of meals to low-income children during the pandemic. Prosecutors allege most of these meals never existed, and instead the taxpayer money went to luxury homes, cars, jewelry, and real estate abroad. Quote, no one will support these programs if they continue to be riddled with fraud, Joseph H. Thompson, the federal prosecutor, took on the case told the Times. We're losing our way of life in Minnesota in a very real way. Trump has weighed in by criticizing Walz for allowing Minnesota to become a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity. He said the perpetrators should be sent back to where they came from. He later said he would be revoking the temporary protected status of the roughly 700 Somali nationals who have it, which prevents them from being deported. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit. The TPS prevents them from being deported. That's true. It does. It does. And they sort of tend to shift over when we're looking at Lochinwall, that he comes here with temporary protected status. I want to clarify here something, because someone pointed out to me how she was commenting in Pisco's chat, or no, she was commenting about his statements and on X, and then he pulled it up to basically say how wrong she was and that she was quoting me. Now she wasn't trashing me, quite the contrary. She was saying how much I equipped her, and I'm appreciative of that. I want to clarify the distinction because he actually countered back on this. And what he basically said was that TPS and asylum are two different things, and they're not related to each other at all, which is largely true, but not entirely true. It's largely true, but not entirely true. And that asylum was granted to Lochinwall by a judge in the administrative court in April, which is one of Trump's judges, which he says they're all bloodthirsty and Trump loyalists, which sounds stupid. Not because the administrative court is that's also a pretty stupid statement. That in April of 2025, those are Trump loyalists is a retardo statement. But the administrative court is different from your typical federal court. Federal court is appointed by a president, and an administrative court judge is part of the executive agency. So he would have authority to do that. To assume that in April 2025, he had put his administrative judges in there 3 months after is asinine. Like, that's the first thing he's doing. Let me make sure that some administrative judge in Minnesota is removing people. How stupid is that? That's why it's a stupid point that he's making there. Secondly, the guy doesn't get to apply for asylum unless he got in here through TPS and can stay here through TPS. Why do I say that? Well, you have to be in the country to apply for asylum. This guy's half a world away. So you brought him in here without knowing anything about him, which now gives an opportunity to apply for asylum. So yeah, if the guy is off in freaking Afghanistan, he's not applying for asylum. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. Now, once he's here and he's applying for asylum, if you cannot show a basis based on what he's done here, a history, to establish that this guy is a unique threat, and he can establish that there's some sort of potential danger back home, which, yeah, he was part of a zero unit. Of course, there's some sort of danger of him going back to the Taliban. But once he's here, now he can apply for asylum. And if you cannot establish that he's some sort of threat, in that case, based on the clash between zero unit and Taliban, he's going to be able to stay here. And any normal administrative judge would grant him that. Because why would you say no? But the whole point is, the only reason he's here is because of Biden. The only reason he had TPS and had so long to apply for asylum is because of Biden. And the administrative judge is not someone who's a Trump crony. It's someone who almost certainly has been on the job for years and had little time, if any, to vet how good or bad they are. And I don't know how good or bad they are, because frankly, if there's no reason to say no to this guy staying here because he hasn't done anything once he's here and applying for asylum, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So it's such a bad faith perspective that Pisco's throwing out there. He asked to debate me. He asked to debate me on this topic. I'm in talks about the idea of debating him on it. I think that they would be more likely to be at least a productive conversation in contrast to my conversation with Destiny, where the guy just doesn't know anything about the law at all. So he just makes stuff up as he goes along. But we'll see. I told him that I might do it. I thought he was talking about having a phone call with me, because he has called me sometimes to talk about the law. And I said, I told him, let's do it at 10 o'clock tonight. And then it seemed like he's like, great. Like, he's all excited as if this is like some sort of show I'm doing with him. And I was like, wait, you want a show? All right, maybe I can do that at 10:30 tonight. But then I came here and I said, hey, if we hit our goal, I'm not going to be doing the Pisco. If we hit our goal and I'm doing a call in with you guys, I'm not doing the Pisco thing. So that's another reason I'm really hoping that we hit the goal. Because if we hit the goal, then I don't have to go through this whole back and forth with Pisco later tonight. Anyway, with all that out of the way, hope that was all clear. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you so much. Make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe. I'm in a new time here. This is a new time. I really need the likes. Like, it's really, really a big deal. If I'm going to build in any sort of algorithm here, I really need the likes. And the comments after the show, also blessings. So, blessings upon you. Homeland Security, so he said the perpetrators should be sent back where they came from. He later said he would be revoking temporary protected status of roughly 700 Somali nationals who have it, which prevents them from being deported. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, during a Tuesday cabinet meeting at the White House, reiterated Trump's attacks on the governor. Quote, you told me to look into Minnesota and their fraud on visas and their programs. 50% of them are fraudulent, which means that the wacko Governor Walz either is an idiot or he did it on purpose. And I think he's both, said Trump. Walz has defended what has gone on by saying his administration erred on the side of generosity. We ignore whistleblowers. 400 whistleblowers. We ignore them to err on the side of generosity. Yeah, that's what we do. During the pandemic, and prioritize getting money out to people as quickly as possible. Well, you're an idiot. That makes you an idiot. The programs are set up to move the money to people. Walz said the programs are set up to improve people's lives, and in many cases, the criminals find the loopholes. Or it's meant to improve the lives of criminals. That's really more likely. That's a thing too. Criminals have lives also. So, following up on this, CBS News also reporting that Trump administration orders ICE to target undocumented Somali immigrants in the Twin Cities. So ICE is coming. An ice storm is coming to Minnesota. That's what's happening. Hence, ICE operations in Twin Cities are expected to begin this week. Hundreds of people expected to be targeted. The person familiar with the planning said, and according to Trump, they contribute nothing. I don't want them here. And a Thanksgiving post where we also called Governor Tim Walz a slur for people with intellectual disabilities. A slur for people with intellectual disabilities. What could that mean? Mr. Trump said Somali refugees are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. He previously ordered all green card holders from Somalia and more than a dozen other countries to be re-examined. And said he's going to be ending TPS, temporary protected status, for Somalis. Without evidence that Somali gangs are terrorizing the people of the great state. Really? Without evidence? What about all these convictions? What about that? Trump has been increasingly focused on people of Somali descent living in the U.S., saying recently they have caused a lot of trouble, which is the rhetoric that community leaders say has inflamed tensions and revived fears of profiling. On Monday evening, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also announced his department is investigating whether Minnesota tax money found its way to Al-Shabaab, a U.S. designated foreign terrorist organization, an al-Qaeda affiliate based in Somalia. The tax route is much less likely to lead to any convictions, I'll tell you that. You have to show that they knew they were sending it to Al-Shabaab to prove that it was sent to Al-Shabaab and that they knew it at the time they were sending it. Sounds like a tough road to go. Tough road to hoe for Scott Bessent there. In a joint news conference on Tuesday afternoon, the mayors of Minneapolis, St. Paul alone, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, Minneapolis City Council member Jamal Osman said they are standing in solidarity with the Metro Somali community because of course they are. Because of course they are. Because of course they are. To our Somali community, I love you. We stand with you. That community is rock solid, said Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. How this guy still has a job after the humiliation that he suffered. You remember him doing the walk of shame during the George Floyd riots? Unbelievable. Minneapolis is proud to be, he's such a ridiculous. He's what's the word? A tushy hat. Yeah, I think that's the word. Minneapolis is proud to become the largest Somali community in the entire country. They've been here for decades in many instances. Entrepreneurs and fathers, they benefit both the cultures and the economic reliance of our city. Yeah. Fry said the target Minnesota Somali's population means due process will be violated. How do you know that? Mistakes will be made, and let's be clear. It means that American citizens will be detained for no other reason than the fact that they look like they're Somali, Fry said. That's not how we will, that is not now and will never be a legitimate reason. I don't know where you come up with that. That's pretty dumb. I grew up in America that prides itself on being a country of immigrants, that prides itself on the fact that people from other countries would look across a whole ocean and say, that's where I want to be. It seems that what we learned was that we pride ourselves, and we have decades and generations of priding ourselves on being a beacon of immigration in Europe, Carter said. I mean, it seems to many of us like the darker skin the immigrants who come to our country are, the more our posture on immigration as country has shifted. That's un-American. That's concerning. That is crap. That is total, utter hogwash. It seems as if you're desperately only want to bring in immigrants who have darker skin. Right? I mean, there's continual targeting of folks with darker skin rather than Europeans. And Canadians. So I grew up in America that prides itself on being a country of immigrants. The last thing we need is federal agents coming to town attempting to turn us against each other. They're getting rid of illegal aliens. Why aren't you helping them? Turn us against ourselves. Last thing we need is federal agents coming to town, create chaos, and challenge for us so we stand together. Why are you not getting rid of illegal aliens? The last thing we need is local governance, which is telling our federal governments, no, we're going to basically stand in your way. That's the last thing we really need. We encourage folks to look to the organizations, and I got more on that coming up in a few. Encourage folks to look to organizations that serve immigrants and refugees across the community because we have constant reminders out there about what your rights are. You have rights. That's an American thing. Minneapolis, which they really shouldn't. Minneapolis City Council member Jamal Osman, who was born in Somalia, pulled no punches. We're going to come to a clip of him in a moment, so I'm not going to. And of course, he calls it a PR stunt. Yeah, when they're exposing our fraud and getting rid of our violent criminals, that's a PR stunt. To someone who doesn't care about fraud happening, of course, that's a PR stunt. To someone who uses immigrants as a way to enrich himself, yeah, it's a PR stunt. We welcome support in investigating and prosecuting crime. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't welcome that at all. That's the last thing you want. Where is this? Where now? I gotta find something here. I'm going to prove to you that he's full of crap. I'm going to prove to you that this statement here, that we welcome support in investigating, is complete crap. You want to know how I can prove it to you?
In public, or I've never said this, but
In fact, I got two things here. Two things I want to share with you. Two. Let's come back here. We'll do it this way. We'll come to this clip in a moment. I'm going to show you another clip first. Show you another clip first.
publicly, but
Because I want to show you just what crap this guy is. What a horrible human being. Here is Tim Walz basically making excuses for everything because that's what he does.
Tweets 150 times after midnight and target certain people. It's not a coincidence that they're targeting Minnesota. We certainly welcome those investigations. They've been done by all of you, and they've been done.
No, it hasn't been done by any of them. They've been done by all you. That's crap.
Here, we certainly want to know that, but it's also the transportation secretary who is threatening to withhold our federal dollars. Look, that's who they are. This is who they are.
That they stand in the way of fraud where I welcome it. So I consider them a complete and total nuisance.
Welcome anybody who wants to help us. We're fixing it. And I said, Minnesotans know us.
No, you're not fixing it. You're not fixing it. I'll show you that he's not fixing it. You want to know how he's not fixing it? Oh, here you go. The Trump administration is about to cut off SNAP funding for states who refuse to provide data on SNAP benefits. The only reason Democrat states don't want to hand over data is because they know there's major fraud. If you knew there was fraud, why wouldn't you go running to them saying, help us deal with this fraud? But instead, you're willing to cut off federal funding in order to have to avoid having your books looked at.
In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states. And that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. But 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%. So now as we continue to roll that back. In February of this year, we asked.
Because you basically don't care about fraud. In that case, you guys keep jacking up and send more money out. You got to keep sending more money out. So the point here is when Tim Walz comes out with his poppycock statements and claims that he's trying to fight against fraud, that's an obvious lie. We welcome investigation. If you welcome investigation, why aren't you sharing your data? Why are you joining New York and California and saying we'd rather sacrifice our federal funding of SNAP than to share our data about what kind of fraud is happening and expose us to being investigated for fraud? That's how you know that Tim Walz himself is fraud. He's a fraud. He's complete and total fraud. You don't welcome anything. Last thing you want is an investigation and prosecuting crime. Minnesota's largest Somali population, numbering 80,000 people, according to the Minnesota Compass, a project of wilder research. Many fled the long civil war in East African country and were drawn to the state's welcoming social programs. Yeah, you think? You think? Because that's what's always able to be ripe with fraud. Jailani Hussein, a Somali American who's executive director of the Minnesota chapter Council on American Islamic Relations, said his group has heard of less than a dozen immigration arrests within a local Somali community in recent days. So it hasn't happened yet, but supposedly it is happening soon. It is happening soon. So thanks to the raid last night on Rumble. You really got Davey excited for that. Oh, you're very, very welcome. You're very, very welcome. Although I don't want to steal false credit. I don't want to steal false credit. I never heard of you before. I didn't send them to you. That was Rumble doing it. Normally, it goes to Jim Tells You. Normally, it goes there. In fact, I don't know if Jim is watching now, but he was not live when my show wrapped. Now, YouTube will allow me to send folks over when he's not live. YouTube will allow me to do that. Rumble does not. So they just redirected me. And by good fortune, they found your channel. And I'm glad they did. I'm glad they did. Because at the very least, they went somewhere where they were appreciated. So I'm very glad they did. But I can't take credit that I was like, oh, let me help off-label pod, because that wasn't. I didn't hear of you until I saw that that's where I got redirected, or my audience. My ghetto got redirected. It doesn't matter how much fraud is happening in Minnesota. Liberal judges will let them off. Possibly. It's a concern. They're not all liberal judges. So we'll have to see who they get. No, Joe, don't do it. Come on, everyone. We must stop this. Mismos, South Carolina, trying to stop me from hanging out with Pisco tonight. I appreciate those efforts. Thank you. 100% cunt sanctuary. I think sanctuary cities, states, all of that sounds totally illegal. The whole purpose is we're going to basically violate federal law, federal immigration law. That's basically what they're trying to say. We're going to violate federal immigration law. Either way, shout out to Off Label Pod. I don't like taking credit for something that I didn't do. I didn't feel like I did. I mean, I guess I ended up doing it without planning it. So, but yeah, you seem really cool. I should check out Off Label Pod. Now I should check out Off Label Pod and see like what they're about. Should we spend a minute doing that? Should we spend a minute? Carly Sadie, God bless you. Trying to help out here. Help out the cause. God bless you. Let me see. Uzelian, by the way, says, Joe, I want to correct you. The shooter was from Washington State. He was specifically in Bellingham, Washington, my hometown. It's an interesting history of serial killers. Oh, I thank you for correcting me on that. I always want to get accurate information. Off-label pod. Let me see if I can find these folks here. So maybe I can actually really help them out. I see one of the things I'm always trying to do is I'm trying to encourage people to express gratitude. And I think that was very nice of you to do that. So let me see. This is the Off-Label podcast.
Electricity running.
I'm gonna open up a random moment from the Off-Label podcast from last night where I redirected people. Oh yeah, he's got 680 followers, so I can see why he appreciated it. This is the Off-Label podcast. Trump tells Maduro flee Venezuela or else. So I'm just gonna go to a random moment in this podcast.
Eat one of those, and I'm not saying it's good or bad either way, because I don't know what I'm doing here kind of thing is. But do you think maybe he's like, well, maybe we'll send you just like the whole shoot him in the leg thing, when he's like, can't we just shoot him in the leg? And everybody went fucking wild about that and forgot about everything else that he he had done for the last week or so.
Right.
It could be one of them. Well, okay, so they're talking about Venezuela. They don't want us to do the boats. Fine. If you don't want us to do the boats, then we're gonna go hit them. If you want to sit here and tell everybody that we're doing illegal shit, because literally, and I have the video, they're saying that this could be illegal. It could be. It's not right now, but it could be illegal, and you're following illegal orders. What?
Look who wrote this article.
Emma Bussy.
All right. They actually seem like they could be good. They seem like they really could be good. You guys check them out. Check them out. Oh, thank you so much, Carly. It's very kind of you. Yeah, so do yourself a favor and check out the Off-Label podcast. They seem like they could be potentially really good. Who knows? Of course, now I lost my chat over here. I don't know why Rumble does this. Why does Rumble do this to me? I think I got rated by Robert Gavea, in which case I want to say thank you. Thank you, Robert. For one reason or another, it seems as if the whole reason I moved up my time slot was to get rated by him. That's why I moved up to 6:30. So like I'm sort of coming in right as he's wrapping up. And for one reason or another, I don't think that the raids are coming. I don't think the redirects are coming through on YouTube. He's showing me that it's going out. So he's not doing anything wrong. I don't know what ends up happening though, because I don't notice. I'll notice a bump right away in Rumble, and I don't see it in YouTube. So that's why I'm urging people for the like, so I can actually stick with this time slot, because I sort of like this time slot, but it's a lot harder. So anyhow, still sticking with the whole increased raids and the ice storm that's coming to Minnesota. This is the police chief, Brian O'Hara, giving advice that has some people on the right really upset. And I have a little bit of a hot take here.
Folks that are masked, that they're not sure if they're law enforcement, that they may be kidnapping people. Like we have had those reports. I want to be clear to the community. The community should know that if you see something like that, that is legitimate, that you don't know if someone is law enforcement, you should call 911 and you should provide as much information as possible, because let's not forget, we very recently had tragedy in this state by someone who was purporting to be law enforcement. So please, let's be clear. That's something everyone should report, and that we will immediately respond to, and we will document, whether it's somebody's not sure if there's a kidnapping happening, somebody's not sure if there's law enforcement present or not. And that's something else, that's additional policy requirements that we are implementing, that we will document and report these types of things anytime that we hear it, and reminding our officers of their duty to intervene. So if there is anything that is, a violation of someone's human rights or civil rights, excessive force or anything like that, they absolutely have a duty to intervene as police officers.
Okay. So I have a lot of thoughts about what this gentleman just said, Brian O'Hara. Now, Lib's TikTok shared this, and she says, Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says the Somali should call 911 if ICE shows up wearing masks to make arrests. He says police will immediately respond and intervene. Interfering with immigration enforcement is a crime. Now, respectfully to Libs of TikTok, who I'm a fan of her as well as you are. You see that I'm a follower of hers. I don't think what this guy said until the very end there is a little bit sus, but my hot take here is I don't think what he said here is that bad. And let me just explain to you what I mean by that. He is correct to point out that there was political assassination that happened in Minnesota just recently. We saw that happens. And what he said was, if you really legitimately don't know, if you see masked men you legitimately don't know, you have a good reason to have concern that it's not federal agents, that you should call 911. Which that's actually sound advice. That's very different from what the Seditious Six did. Seditious Six basically said, hey, unconstitutional orders, that's something you have a duty to ignore. Definition of an unconstitutional order is clearly very disparate. as I explained last night, and several times now, the whole issue about disregarding an unconstitutional order is that it's blatantly unconstitutional. It's something that, like, no, there's no way this can be legal. What we're doing here is no way it can be legal. If you're told to, torture animals, you should disregard that, right? I mean, yeah, that's clearly something you're not supposed to be doing. That I have no problem with. But telling people that they have a duty to ignore unconstitutional orders without giving that sort of caveat and basically implying, hey, if it's something that later is determined to be unconstitutional, you can be held accountable. That's an egregious abuse of your position. And that is something that is trying to deflate, demoralize, and make the military question itself. You're trying to harm the military. Now, when this gentleman over here, Brian O'Hara, the police chief from Minneapolis, comes out and says, hey, if you really don't know whether it's ICE, we want you to call 911. I got no problem with that. That makes sense because in theory, that could happen. Now, will that be abused? Probably. Chances seem very high that will be abused, but I have no problem with him saying that because, all right, it's one thing to call 911, but I think 911, if they see that, if they know that there's a raid happening in a particular area, the police know that. In that case, so be like, oh, all right, no, they really are. They're not masked lunatics who are looking to just kidnap people, as if this is a situation, as if that's happening. That dozens of people are just being kidnapped. That's happening all the time. Okay, but in theory, it could happen. So them calling 911. All right, I don't have a problem with him saying that. I don't like with him saying that if they see human rights violations, that they have a duty to intercede. That's where I have a question. That's where I have a real problem. This is now trying to pit justification. Practically, it sounds almost as if he's giving authority to his cops to, like, physically engage ICE agents. And this I have a real problem with. I wish they were so aggressive in fighting crime and fraud as they are in having concerns about physically engaging ICE agents. The end part there, I have a real problem with. The idea of them of directing folks to call 911 if they really don't know, I guess that makes sense. I'm not that bothered by that. Because the question then is, what are the police doing once they get that information? Are they going down there looking for human rights violations? That sounds kind of insane. What they should be doing when they get those calls is, yeah, that's right. ICE is there. Don't worry. Don't be afraid. You're not doing, you're an American citizen. Don't be afraid. You're fine. You're not going to be kidnapped. That's what should happen. Now, that's in theory. And that's why, in theory, there's nothing wrong with what he's saying. How this manifests in practice could be completely different. But like, oh my God, there's ICE there. We're going to go down there and try and basically bust up and stop them from arresting anyone. Could it play out that way? 100%. Is it more likely than not that it'll play out that way? Possibly. But the statement that he's making here, standing on its own, until the last few words, which are somewhat disconcerting, I don't have a problem with that. So tell me how you think. You think I'm wrong? Okay, listen to me. I don't worry about disrespect. I don't need to have people respect me. I'm not fighting for respect. I'm fighting to basically point out where people are being idiots. I appreciate that. I know it's meant out of love, but don't worry about that. I'm a big boy. Seriously. Seriously. I've had people cuss at me before, and it'll probably happen again. And I'm okay. I don't look at that as like some sort of like my honor is stained. And Marino says Minneapolis needs to be the first city Trump declares the insurrection out and make this question of mass criminals moot. We're getting towards that. We're getting towards that. Before I get to that, there's one more clip here from a guy I promised I was going to share a clip of, and that is some Somalian councilman. I don't remember his name. Osman, I think it might be. I'm guessing. And the nonsense.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamal Osman. I am the council member of Ward 6, someone who represents the largest East African community in Minneapolis. I am proud to say I'm a Somali American. This country welcomed me, my family, 26 years ago. It has provided me a life that I did not have in Somalia. We came here and we are thankful to be here. I've been educated here, got the opportunity to serve my community, to be a council member. I know many families are fearful tonight. They are. But I want you to know that City of Minneapolis stand behind you as the leaders, both mayors and the chief and everyone that's standing behind you are here to stand with you. Our community has lived through fear in the past. And we're not going to let us divide that. We're going to stay informed, we're going to stay safe, and we're going to support each other. We will continue to working our partners.
The simplest thing to do is to encourage the illegal aliens from Somalia to go home. That's the simplest thing to do.
On the ground, so residents know their rights.
If someone who's a Somalian American like he is, I assume that he's a naturalized Somalian. So, okay. Totally fine with him serving on the council and taking a leadership role. God bless. God bless. Just like any other American. But when you're shielding illegal when you're shielding illegal aliens, that's when I have a problem.
They know where to turn for help. And we know that Minneapolis will not abandon. One of the thing I do want to say, and obviously everyone knows that our president is racist, xenophobic, Islamophobic, and we are gonna fight that.
Wow,
America has a history of fighting.
What do you mean you're gonna fight that? What the hell does that even mean? A, he's not, and B, what the hell is fighting that mean even?
And stopping those kind of individuals who continue to divide people and divide communities. Many Somalis that live in this community are working at your groceries, working at your hospitals, delivering your babies, they're doctors. They are very successful individuals. Now I would like to switch into Somali to speak to my community.
Oh, here we go. See,
Assalamu alaikum. Walaalayaal waxaan la hadlayaa community-ga magaalada Minneapolis. Anigoo ah Jamaal Cusmaan. Waxaan inii sheegayaa City Minneapolis garabkiina ay taagan tahay. Community-geena target ayaa lagu yahay.
Now I gotta tell I don't know if I've ever addressed this topic before, the whole foreign language thing. I might have once when someone switched into Spanish, but I don't think I ever have given you my thoughts about a political leader addressing in a foreign language, not in English. As a general rule, that type of pandering bothers me a great deal. I think that that's disturbing. You're a political leader. You're talking to, making a position about what the municipality, or in some cases the state or country, is saying and thinking, and your representation in that capacity. So the idea of someone regularly addressing in this type of setting a public in a foreign language is very bothersome to me, because it seems as if it's purposefully set up to try and keep them from being any sort of actual assimilation into American culture. And it's designed to basically say and when you're taking that role, it feels like you make it feel like there's an invasion. You make it feel as if you're looking to invade. and you're taking advantage of the niceties of our civil liberties that we allow to sort of try and make you feel like we're replacing your culture with our own culture. Your American culture, adios, let's start talking in Arabic. So as a general rule, that bothers me a great deal. When I see politicians doing that, it makes me say, I don't want this person having any sort of authority over anything in America. That's my default. I will make an exception in this particular case. The reason I think that this is a unique type of situation is because, in theory, I'm a reasonable person, and I recognize that, hey, a lot of Somalians probably don't speak English. That probably does happen, especially first generation. There may be a bunch of them who are relatively new who, might be naturalized or not. And, you might have a lot of people who are basically staying very local in their own little neighborhood and not having much interaction with folks who are of American origin. And those folks will, hear reports and stuff and things like that and live in fear based on the fact that they might think that, hey, they're coming after me. I don't know what's being reported in the local Minnesota Somalian newspapers or online, whatever it is that they use. So I can understand that there could be misinformation which would be coming from there. And the idea of quelling fears for American citizens, I think, is reasonable. It's a reasonable thing to sort of reach out to people who may not speak English, may not really comprehend English so well, because you recognize that they have a unique reason to feel fear right now about what's happening in their community. For all you or I know, maybe they're being told that if you're Somalian, even if you're naturalized and you're here legally, that you're about to be removed, which is not accurate. So they might be living in fear. So in that context, I'm sufficiently reasonable to say, yeah, I can understand the idea of saying that these folks, like him addressing them in Arabic, which is what I assume they speak in Somalia, sound like that to me, that I don't have, in that context, it bothers me a lot less, because I sort of feel as if you're filling a genuine need that might exist out there. And this is, especially when he prefaces it with saying, I need to speak to the Somalian community. So, and now I assume he's going on for another 30 seconds in Arabic. I'm okay with that. With that, I'm okay. I think he's an idiot for basically assuming xenophobic, Islamophobic. It's just phobic. So I have little confidence that he's actually going to be sharing anything of enlightenment. But the notion of him saying it in Arabic in this particular context is less bothersome to me than, as a general rule, where it really bothers me a lot. Like, it tends to happen in Spanish more often, but we'll probably see this more. I am curious how you feel about that. Drop a comment. Let me know. What do you think about that? The idea of politicians addressing in a language other than English. Do you think that's okay? Do you think it depends on the circumstance? Like I'm sort of drawing that distinction? Or do you think it's never okay? Or do you think that's never a big deal? It's always okay. So I'll actually put a poll up over here because I am curious about your thoughts on that. I'll give you my opinion, but I'm just one guy. Let's make a poll. Let's do a poll. This is time for a poll. Politicians addressing. Click. What foreign language is always okay. Never okay. Only if the audience is And put in only if the audience is all race X, like, you know, if you go into like a Spanish parlor, you know, a parlor meeting for Spanish people, so that for, you know, Latinos. So like, so they're politicians speaking in Spanish, you might think that's okay. Or very limited circumstances. So in this one, I would answer, so the choice I'm giving you, politicians addressing the public in a foreign language is always okay, never okay, only if the audience is all race X, or in very limited circumstances. Okay. That's the one I would be clicking off personally based on my position. I don't know what that noise is. I don't think I'll ever know. I don't think I'll ever know. It's been happening for like a week or two. The goal might look like it's over, but it's not. The goal might look like it's over, but it's not. The goal is still going strong. The goal is still going strong. And as long as we can hit there beforehand, I'm going to count out 1, 2, 3, 4. So the goal is still going strong. But until I finish, but I am going to be wrapping up here in like 15 minutes. I got to get moving. Joe, please randomly speak in Hebrew so we'll all feel better. Khalila, I would never do that to you. It sounds like Omar was that thing in her throat. Could be. I gotta get moving because I got stories I gotta cover and I gotta be out of here soon. I thought this was really funny when I saw this. This is why I ended up on this clip here from this guy. Is this the one? I'm not seeing it now. But Minnesota is not the only place that's having problems. No, Minnesota is not the only place where we're seeing them potentially stand up to ICE. As Libs of TikTok shares out, New York City is harboring 7,169 known illegal aliens in their jails, including murderers and predators. They're refusing to hand over to ICE. Just utterly unreal. This is crazy. This is crazy because you know that they don't go there. You don't get into prison in New York unless you've done some really terrible crap.
Or of justice. We're seeing that these criminal illegal aliens are exiting the jails and going back onto New York or Chicago or these other sanctuary streets to re-perpetuate their crimes. Today, in New York City's jails are 7,169 criminal illegal aliens. We're talking about hundreds of murderers, hundreds of sexual predators, drug traffickers, the worst of the worst. Dan Goldman and these other sanctuary city politicians, they should agree to hand over those individuals, honor those detainers, and then we won't have to flood the zone with our ICE law enforcement. We won't have to put those men and women on the ground because we will get these vicious criminals out of New York City's jails.
Right. It's
or of justice.
They're purposely trying to set up conflict. They're purposely trying to create dangerous situations. That's what they're doing. They're purposely trying to set up dangerous situations. It's horrible people. This is horrible, horrible human beings. Purposely trying to set up to protect murderers and predators. Unbelievable. It gets worse. It gets worse. As Milo Joy reports, shocking, a former ICE official with sources inside NYPD claims the commissioner's office is deliberately leaking upcoming ICE raid details, not just to the press, but directly to anarchist activist networks. The result? Masked protesters swarm locations within minutes, block federal agents, and force operations to be abandoned as seen Saturday on Canal Street. These intentional leaks are creating dangerous standoffs and, according to the source, put officers, agents, and civilians at serious risk of injury or worse. Unbelievable. Yesterday in Lower Manhattan, hundreds gathered spontaneously after rumors of an ICE operation. Protesters blocked a garage exit. NYPD formed lines and tensions rose quickly. They're doing this on purpose. This is obviously purposeful. This is where we need Pam Bondi. We need Pam Bondi to actually be doing investigations and actually throwing these politicians in jail. That's what we need to see happening. We need to see people going to jail for impeding, for obstructing federal agents from performing their duties. This is what we need. We need Pam Bondi. This is where it's nice. It would be awesome. I'm with you. I want that woman to be going after the Schiffs of the world and Barack and Comey and Clapper and all those other things. And those are all important. I'm not looking to disparage that. This is a matter of will Trump or will Trump not be able to follow his agenda? These are people who are willfully breaking federal law for the purpose of trying to obstruct ICE from carrying out their federally mandated duties. They're willfully, these are agents of the state, in some cases the city, designed to purposefully stand in their way, taking steps to actively obstruct. And this is where Pam Bondi has to actually show her teeth, because otherwise she's freaking useless. And quickly, this is not something that she can like sit around. This is something that, and I have little confidence that she's going to. Little confidence that she will. I'm not going to kid you. Very, very little confidence in her. It gets worse. It gets worse. A Muse reported, Democrat cities turn off flock crime cameras to stop ICE from catching illegal criminals. More than 6,000 U.S. cities use flock cameras to track stolen cars, fugitives, and violent offenders. But Democrat sanctuary cities are shutting them down because they help ICE find criminal aliens. Cambridge, Massachusetts paused its system to protect illegal immigrants' privacy, even though the city never objected to using the same cameras to ticket Americans for speeding. Over a dozen cities in Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Texas have suspended their systems to block federal agencies. Well, this should never be happening in Texas. But yeah, this is just, this sort of thing is willfully trying to obstruct. I'm not saying cities have to engage in new tactics to try and help ICE agents, but when you're turning off the cameras that you generally use, specifically because you're looking to impede ICE from being able to perform their duties, this is obstruction. You are purposefully obstructing ICE. That's why I'm saying that this has to be something that is we're prosecuting aggressively and quickly. Not something that we're going to win an argument about this in a court case 4 years from now. No, this is something you need to start prosecuting now, right now. And if you can't do it, then frankly, I'm sorry. To me, this is where I really draw the line. This is where I draw the line. Pam Bondi, you either can get your job done or not. Your objective here is to help Donald Trump fulfill the mandate that he got from 77 million Americans, which first and foremost was get rid of illegal aliens. Other stuff is important too. It is. Other stuff is important. Accountability is important. The economy, unfortunately, is an important thing, even though that's not the federal government's job, which is why I tend to rank it much lower. Taking care of all the DEI crap, yeah, that's important as far as helping our culture grow in a way that's healthy and not self-destructive, not actually racist. These are all important things. But this right here is essential. Because if you allow these sanctuary cities to run roughshod over ICE agents, where they're leaking out where they're going, turning off cameras, refusing to turn over illegal aliens who are murderers and predators, and you allow this to go unchecked, and when I say checked, she said 8 months ago, that if you think you're a sanctuary city, you can ignore federal law. You got another thing coming. I'm going to prosecute you. Well, it's time, Pam. It's time. Go out there and start dropping indictments. Go after these people. Because the idea that you're just going to allow these politicians to create a wall of anarchists who say, hey, we're going to stand up for these crazy illegal aliens, whether they're murderers or whoever it is. I don't want them standing up even for abuelas. I don't care. If they're impeding ICE agents, these people have got to go. And the ones who are turning on the spigot, the ones who are standing there and basically saying, hey, Antifa, there's an ICE raid coming here. And yeah, don't worry, we're going to shut off the cameras so that they're not going to be able to track where you go fleeing off to like scurrying rats. And yeah, we might have you in prison because you're a deranged lunatic, but we're not going to give you over to ICE for you to be removed. These psychopaths have to be prosecuted. And this is where Pam Bondi comes in. This is where Pam Bondi has to actually show some freaking cojones and go after the likes of individuals who are standing up to defend these people. Frankly, there's something Eric Adams right now should be curing. Where the hell that clown is, I don't know, off in Tahiti somewhere. You know you're not going to get help from Mondani later on. And that's why these folks who are standing in the way of ICE, obstruction is a very, very serious crime. Go after them. Go after them for purposefully obstructing. They're standing in your way. And they're going to continue standing in your way unless they see that there are ramifications for standing in your way. We know what they've done. We know what they will continue to do. So now go after them. Because if not, you're utterly useless. Step aside. Let's bring in some other member to lead the DOJ there. It could be Todd Blanche. It could be Bailey, it could be countless other people, but we need people who are actually going to go out there and start prosecuting these politicians and start going after them for standing up with these lunatics, for enabling these lunatics, for basically calling the lunatics out in the street to attack and create conflict with ICE, creating dangerous situations where someone almost certainly is going to get seriously injured, if not killed, in these conflicts in the upcoming several weeks or months, because these conflicts are going to get worse and worse. So you know you've got these lunatic, psychopathic Democratic leaders. And there are a host of cronies who enable them to basically go out there and frustrate ICE agents because they want there to be bloodshed, so they can point at Donald Trump and say, "This is your fault. This is your fault," while they're sitting there enabling all this crap. Frankly, Pam Bondi, this is on you. You swore, this is what you didn't swear, but you said in open camera, if you're a sanctuary city and you're sitting there standing in the way of federal agents, we're going to go after you. Well, the time has come. Let's go. Let's go. Go get them. Drop indictments. Start actually making them feel like there might be some freaking repercussions. If I just said 99 is going to count that as 9 separate remaining chats, yes. If you do that, I will tell him. If someone does that, I will count it. Yes. Yes. I'm going to go along with that. The only one still battling 1,000 with me is Tulsi. I believe she will be the first woman president as well. Maybe. I like Tulsi in the role she's in now. I don't know that I would like her as much if she was president. I like her in the role she's in now. I don't know that I would like her as much in that role. I sort of get that vibe that something about her I'm not going to like if she gets too big. You know what I'm saying? And that's not at all to question anything she's done as head of the DNI. I think she's been great, phenomenal, excellent. But some of her broader policies I might not really agree with. So, yeah. I am going to be getting out of here like in 5 minutes though. So yeah. If we get that $90, I'll definitely I'll do another show later on and skip out on Pisco and say, sorry. I got to do another show. Pam Bondi is an ineffectual half when DJT needs to pull his out of his derriere and make a change. make a change. By the way, that applies to Rumble too. But I promised Lady Logic that I was like, I'm going to be shutting down here at 8 o'clock, which is now 7:59. I'll go in another, like I said, another 5 minutes before I get on out of here. Because I have one more story I need to cover before I get out of here anyway. But where was I? Yes, one last story I have for you. And frankly, I only looked at this story very quickly. I don't know enough about the politics in Honduras to really get to it. So I'm going to be reading this with you. I'll be reading it with you. All right, here we go. Trump threatens hell to pay as Honduras election count continues. What's this? Hell to pay? Hell to pay? U.S. President Donald Trump raised doubts on Monday about the counting of votes in the Honduran presidential election, saying there would be hell to pay if the results were changed. As of Monday, with 50% of the vote counted, the top two candidates were in a virtual tie. Newsweek contacted the National Election Council of Honduras for comment. Trump has weighed in on the Honduran election. Let's see what he said. Endorsing conservative candidate Nasri Tito Asfura, who he said would be a good ally to fight narco-communists and counter drug trafficking. Let's see what he says. I want to go into this other Newsweek article. The U.S. has raised concern in the region that it might launch military action against Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro, with Trump saying the airspace over the South American country should be closed. The U.S. has put up a powerful military force in the Caribbean as part of Trump's pledge to combat drug trafficking. On Monday, Ana Paula Hall, the head of the National Election Council of Honduras, said the vote was close, and she appealed for patience as the ballots as ballots were carefully checked. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right. Let's do a call-in show later. There you go. Promise is a promise. All right. You all can thank Meta with a long E. Not Meta with a long E, because it's a long E, not a short E. Meta with a long E, who's like, no, not Pisco. Give us a call in. Not Pisco. Not freaking Pisco. Well, I'm a servant of the people. So there you go. I'm going to set up a show for 10:30. Call-in show. 1 hour call-in show. God bless you, Mita. You're a very kind woman. I'm coming back at 10:30. 10:30 is the plan. I got to get out of here, though, because I'm supposed to be going. There's like some sort of party that Lady Logic wants me at, that she's sort of hosting, like for a community block type of thing. So she really wants me there. So let me go through this really fast, and then I'm going to get on out of here. I will be back here at 10:30. Okay, let me say this big, really one more time. I'm going to be back here at 10:30. We're going to be doing a call-in show at that time. All right, and you can all thank Mita with a long E. That she basically was like, "No, we're bringing this home. You're not dealing with Pisco." In fact, let me make sure Pisco knows that. Yeah. Hold on. My audience literally gave me 100 money to cancel this show tonight. Do the little shrug. Sorry. Gotta cancel. See? This is what he was talking about. See? I canceled. I stick to my word. I stick to my word. So, God willing, I can't believe I just did that. All right, let me get out of here. Let me finish this up. On Monday, wait, did I just show you that? Stupid. Yeah, this is this is me canceling on him. Sorry. On Monday, Anna Hall, the head of the National Electoral Council, said Honduras was the vote was close. Hall wrote on X that 57% of the votes tallied. There are only 515 votes separating Asfura, the head of the right-wing National Party, and Salvador Nasrallah, former vice president. Trump wrote on Truth Social that the Election Commission in Honduras had stopped counting the votes from Sunday's election at midnight that day. Quote, looks like Honduras is trying to change the results of their presidential election. You know, obviously, this is an issue that's very sensitive to him individually, right? I mean, he's the one who suffered through all this. He added that voters had turned out in overwhelming numbers, but the Election Commission stopped counting the vote at midnight on Sunday after only 47% of the vote was tallied. Quote, their count showed a close race between Asfura and Nasrallah, with Asfura holding a narrow lead of 500 votes. Trump continued. Before the vote, polls showed Asfura as leading the race with Nasrallah in second. In third place was the ruling left-wing Libre Party candidate Rixi Mansada. Probably Mansada. Given this virtual tie, we must remain calm but be patient and wait for the National Electorate Council to finish counting. Hall said, subsequently, this special scrutiny process will be carried out, thus finalizing the general count. U.S. President Trump wrote on Truth Social, it's imperative the commission finish counting the votes. Hundreds of thousands of Hondurans must have their votes counted. Democracy must prevail, Trump said of Honduran President candidate Nasri Asfura. If he doesn't win, the United States will not be throwing good money after bad because a wrong leader can only bring catastrophic results to a country, no matter which country it is. Hall wrote on X, patience and prudence are essential. Hall didn't give a timeline. So he's basically threatening that if my guy doesn't win, this is how the left is framing it, that he's trying to interfere with their politics, basically saying, if my guy doesn't win, you're not getting money from us. I don't have a problem with them doing that. I don't want them to cheat their election. Should have said that before the election. I don't want them to cheat, to steal the election for Asfura, but I don't have a problem with him doing that. I have much less of a problem with that. Much less with a problem with him saying that. I want him to use our economy as a swinging axe. That's the most polite way I can phrase it. A swinging axe to basically intimidate and bully other people in ways that are polite and friendly, but realistic. And say, hey, look, I'm not really liking what you're doing here. So we're just going to be pulling our money away from you. Otherwise, what's the point? That's what he should be doing. I want him doing that. So like, we don't really like the direction your country is going in. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. I want to point this out to you. This is what presidents have done. They don't phrase it quite as bluntly as Trump often does. But as soon as Putin banned homosexuals from the Olympics, all of a sudden he became public enemy number one. He was not everyone's boogeyman. All of a sudden, he was like the murderer from KGB, who's a terrible, terrible, evil dictator. As soon as he did that, now, frankly, Obama had the right to take that position. I think it was foolish, but he had the right to take that position because the president basically can say, "We don't like the direction you're going, so screw you, and we're going to be dealing with you in ways that are going to be less economically generous with you." I got no problem with that. That's what presidents should be doing. We're voting for a guy who's basically supposed to be dealing on the international stage. He's the tip of the spear, and I want that our spear is going to be feared. And the will of Americans, and America at large, is the will of the world. That's the way it should be. Much, much better than using our troops Much better than paying people off. So I got no problem with that. Frankly, I don't really want to be sending any money to Honduras. I don't be sending any money there. But to basically say that if you're corrupt, especially when it comes to corruption, if you're corrupt, I'm not sending you money. What, I mean, idiot? Why would you say anything otherwise? Anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I will be back, God willing, at 10:30 p.m. tonight or thereabouts. I'm going to try to schedule for 10:30. I'm supposed to be at this party thing for like the next hour and a half or so, and then I'm going to set it up. I might set it for 10:45, but I will be setting up hour-long show. You can all thank this fine woman over here who just basically said, meet it with a long E, as well as all the other fine folks here, like Carly, and Mimzo and Nana Knows, who basically were like, no, Joe, we want you to come back to us. We don't want you engaging with Pisco. We want you coming back to us. I'm coming back to you. God willing, tonight, 10:30. I will see you all then. So I don't even tell you about the lab meet or the bugs because you know all that. I'll see you all at 10:30. Make sure you're back here at that time. Good night and Godspeed.